Hi, everyone who's joined so far. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. I'd love to just start off by hearing a little bit more about who's here. So feel free to chat us in and just let us know your name and the organization you're with and what you're hoping to get out of today's webinar. So we have a lot of great content to get to today. Without further ado, I'll dive into it. So we're talking about digital fundraising during the coronavirus pandemic. This webinar is going to be recorded, so don't worry about taking copious amounts of notes. You can replay this later. We'll send it out on Monday as well as the slides. So you'll have the slides to work off of as well. Any questions that come up during our webinar today, feel free to chat those in or use the Q&A questions pane, and we'll get to those at the end. So a little bit about me before diving in. I run success in education here at CauseVox. So every day I get to spend my time working with our customers to help them grow their digital fundraising. CauseVox helps you raise more with less effort. So our digital fundraising platform is really streamlined to make it super easy to raise funds on any device with donation pages, crowdfunding, and peer-to-peer fundraising pages with less time, without the hassle. And while typical fundraising is clunky, complex, and contract bound, CauseVox helps you tidy up your digital fundraising. So whether you need a new donation form on your website or need to run crowdfunding, peer-to-peer fundraising, or more, CauseVox can help you do that all in less time with less hassle. So laying the land for our conversation today, we're talking about digital fundraising during the coronavirus pandemic. So we're going to first talk a little bit about the context of where we're fundraising today and seeing how that impacts how we frame our fundraising and the asks that we make. Next, we're going to be taking a look at what your digital fundraising needs actually are and how to assess them. So with that, we're going to then dive into 10 digital fundraising best practices during the coronavirus pandemic. So how you can really still grow your fundraising online during this time. So let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges that we're all facing today and how that impacts when it comes to asking for donations from your community. So stating the obvious, the coronavirus pandemic is a public health crisis that has really upended lives. So whether it's just tuning into the media and seeing updates all the time, or and dealing with the anxiety that comes along with that, or whether you know someone personally impacted by the virus, we can safe to say all of our lives have been impacted. And unfortunately, the reality is that we really don't know how long this is going to go on. While some states are already starting to lift restrictions, others are, like New York, where I'm from, are very tightly still closed down. It's possible that this summer there will be some lifting of restrictions, but it's likely that there'll be some restrictions again in the fall. So it's safe to say that, unfortunately, we don't really know what the plan is as far as what we can do in in-person events and the like. Also, just the way we've had to work has completely changed. So I'm doing this from home, as I'm sure many of you are attending this webinar from home as well. And so we've had to really quickly adapt to this new way of interacting and working and going completely virtual for most of what we do. So that takes a little bit of time to adapt to and figure out how that works in the long term to stay communicative. Additionally, like I was saying, there's fundraising events for the foreseeable future are quite unfortunately canceled. So I know so many of the organizations I talked to invested all this time in planning an event, and unfortunately that's kind of thrown out at the moment. So people are still trying to figure out, can I run something, you know, in the fall And my answer to that would probably be have a digital plan first and then, see how it goes as far as in-person events being planned. Another challenge we're facing is that a lot of people are out of work. So unfortunately, I know people that have been laid off, or I'm sure you do as well. And so we're going into a recession. It's kind of a hard time. Some of your donors might not be able to give. And I think that's something that we have to consider when it comes to making asks during this time, and work that into how we frame and ask for donations. So all of these challenges that we're all currently facing, how do we move forward? So this is the real question that all of us are still working through. But there's a couple of myths that I feel like have come up in a lot of my conversations with nonprofits. The first one is that you shouldn't fundraise now. This has been less popular in the last week or so, but initially I heard a lot of organizations wondering, should we even fundraise? We're not necessarily working on the front lines. So how can we really do that? Or I feel like we shouldn't do that right now. And the reality is that your organization's mission is still really important. And the people that have been investing, your existing donors, are going to still care about your donation, about your organization, and, continue to make donations. The other myth I've been hearing is that you can't fundraise now. So while you may want to fundraise, you're concerned that it's not possible. Maybe you're used to doing more of those in-person events and lunches with donors and the like. But really, the reality is that you have to adapt your fundraising strategy in order to really thrive and survive at this point, so that your organization can be there when all of these restrictions lift and you are able to continue serving your communities. So really all of this to say that the nonprofits that will withstand the coronavirus the best are the ones that have the quickest to adopt a comprehensive digital fundraising strategy. So let's talk a little bit about your digital fundraising and what those needs actually are. And I think there's three main areas that you want to assess when it comes to figuring out what exactly you need to do to start making a plan for digital fundraising. So the first thing you want to look at is what existing fundraising plans you have. And so consider what fundraising plans have been disrupted. So it's likely that you probably had an in-person event that you can no longer run. So what you want to do is consider the amount that you won't be bringing in and ask for what you need. So creating an appeal around that gap in what you won't be bringing in. Another option is to take a look at any sunk costs. So you may have already paid for a space. You may have put a deposit down for food at an event. Think about what sunk costs are involved and factor that into your budget and what you need to make up for those lost purchases. And then also consider what can be moved into a virtual fundraiser. So I'm having a lot of conversations with organizations right now about how to transition an in-person event into a virtual event. And I think that there's a lot of opportunities, and you'd be surprised with how many things really can work well digitally. So we had a recent blog post come out about virtual fundraising ideas. There's even more on this list. I would encourage you to take a good long look at this list and start thinking through which types of virtual fundraising events you want to incorporate into your plans. So a couple of examples of these fundraising events and fundraising campaigns in action. The first one is N10. So unfortunately, they do the big nonprofit technology conference. We always go. And unfortunately, this year's got canceled. So that was really sad. And then they had a lot of sunk costs that they have to make up because it was too late to really transition to digital for their conference. So what they're doing is they launched a campaign and activated their board members to raise funds for those sunk costs. So maybe that's an idea that you want to implement at your organization. Another thing that I keep seeing a lot is virtual galas. So the Summit Assistance Dogs, they have their big luncheon every year in April. And unfortunately, this year that had to get canceled. And what they did is that they really thought very quickly and quickly transitioned their event into a virtual fundraising event. So they're still having their virtual tables in the form of virtual table captains. So what they're doing is asking people who usually brought their friends to their events to instead create a personal fundraising page and bring their friends to their personal fundraising page. So what they did is they asked each person to sign up for their own page, tell their own story, share it on social media, and raise $10,000 that they would have raised if they had filled the table. So I really think that's a great way to transition that in-person style of fundraising to online with peer-to-peer. And something else that I really like that they're doing is that they are doing a live event still, and they're asking people to tune in on YouTube on May 7th. So another type of event I keep seeing coming up is a virtual walk. So a lot of people have walks in the spring. The Arizona Friends of Foster Children Foundation was able to really quickly get this page up and running to transition their walk online. And so what they did is that they still had a registration fee for the participants to raise funds and encouraged everyone to walk on their own and raise funds through their networks. So that's just a couple of ideas. I would encourage you to take a look at what existing plans you had and think through the creative ways that you can bring that online. And there's quite a lot of opportunities, and maybe something needs to be tweaked a little bit, but you know, and it might not look the exact same as you had wanted it to. But I think with a little creativity, you can do a lot to bring your fundraising events online and make it really fun and interactive like these campaigns. So I would say your digital fundraising is only limited by your creativity and adaptability. The second thing that you want to think about when you're assessing your digital fundraising is your programmatic fundraising needs. So unfortunately, a lot of your programming has probably changed as well. So you're thinking through ways that you can run your programs digitally or from a distance. So you might need to adapt or change your programs, or you're probably already in the process of doing so. So some of these fundraising needs that come up are around the costs involved in changing your programs, or what costs are needed to expand your programs, if that's something that you're running into. And just ask for the funds needed. So the Homeless Children's Playtime Project, they do a lot of in-person gatherings at shelters to play with the children. They bring all these toys in. They have a lot of one-on-one playtime with the kids. Unfortunately, now that can't really happen in the same way. So they were quick to think through how they can, like, what they can do to transition this program online. So they are actually creating play kits with fun reusable toys and activities to keep the children entertained while they're in the shelter. So I think it's a great idea. And so they needed $25,000 to get that new program up and running. So, you know, think through which new programs your organization has to fill as well. So, and you may need to do something as simple as providing masks, or, you know, providing hygienic products to keep your community safe. So that's another great fundraising campaign and opportunity that you can bring online. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the operational fundraising needs. So part of what's going on at the moment is there's not a lot of funding happening for operational costs like rent and staff. That's kind of one of the gaps that I'm seeing at a lot of organizations. So I would then think through the ways that you can fundraise online for your your operational expenses. So Camp Westwind Recovery Fund, they know that they're going to have a tough year already. So they spun up this campaign to raise funds for all of their operational expenses for the year, so that they can continue planning on being here when all of this is over. So I think that's a big opportunity as well, especially right now. People are, because we are entering into a recession, the value in keeping a job is even more important. So that's been something that I've been seeing organizations do, is raising funds to keep staff. So with all of those things being said, so that was, we kind of assessed what existing fundraising needs need to be brought online, what programmatic fundraising needs you're going to bring to digital, and what operational fundraising needs you're looking to fill. But there's also a lot of new fundraising opportunities. So some of this is what we're going to be talking about today in our 10 digital fundraising best practices. So I would say my best advice is to be really open to trying new things. I think it's a great time to try new things, test something new out that you've always wanted to try maybe. And I also think your board is going to be a little bit more receptive to new things at this time. So I would really encourage you to get your board on board with, you know, some of these new strategies when it comes to fundraising. I wanted to address Giving Tuesday now quickly. So that's coming up next week. If you already have something in place, that's great. It's a one-day giving opportunity. A lot of organizations are starting to spin up campaigns for, but some of the drawbacks of it is that it is quite a short timeline. So I wouldn't scramble to do this, because at the end of the day, I think having a long-term digital fundraising strategy and investing your time and energy into developing a really strong strategy that will keep you raising funds throughout the year is much more valuable than just a one-day sprint. You know, it's a marathon, not a sprint kind of thing. So when it comes to digital fundraising during the pandemic, a lot of this hinges on donor retention. It's probably not the time for some organizations to try and get a lot of new donors. I think the real value of that you're going to get right now is following up with all of those existing donor relationships and making sure that you retain them for the long run. So when you're thinking about donor retention, there are some best practices to help you retain your donors throughout this time. So I would, number one, make sure that you follow up with the first time donors that gave this year end and try and get them to make a second gift now. People that make a second gift within 90 days or so of making their first gift tend to stick around for a lot longer. It's about twice the lifetime value. So I would just try your best to retain those donors from year end and make another ask ASAP. And Also take time to invest in your relationships with your donors, check in on them, make sure they're doing okay. I think just reaching out at this time is really important because we are so in need of that communication and connection. I would also encourage you to check in on any pledged gifts for the year or any major gifts that you're expecting to come in, and just make sure that you can still expect them. So definitely investing some time into outreach for those larger donors and pledged gifts, and just make sure that you can still bank on them. For anyone that you know can't really make a donation at this time, so maybe you heard that a certain donor is out of work, or you just kind of have a feeling that there might be some hesitancy, I would have an alternative ask for your donors as well. So maybe not everyone can give again, but maybe you can reposition your ask amount. So ask for a smaller amount over a longer period of time with recurring giving, for example, or ask them to become a peer-to-peer fundraiser. So that involves them not having to give, but rather using their networks to get them to give to your organization, which actually can be more valuable. And then also make sure that you have frequent communications and updates. I just think that that's essential right now. I see a lot of organizations on their websites have a, when you first land on their page, there's a link to their coronavirus response. So talk about how your programs are changing. Talk about what you're missing out on from that big gala that you had to cancel. I think having that communication front and center on your website even is just a good step to being really communicative and clear about what's going on at your organization during this time. So just an idea that I keep seeing coming up, I think we've all done this at this point, is doing happy hours over Zoom. And I think that it'd be really, it'd be to your advantage to do a virtual donor happy hour. You might want to schedule these every couple of weeks and do it with different segments of your audience. Maybe you just want to do it with your higher level donors, but I think this is a great way to have some connection, get donors to mingle with each other as well, ask them how they're doing, give them an update on the changes going on at your organization and what you're doing for your response. And just maybe if you want to do them monthly, I think that could be to your advantage as well. Maybe even asking for a monthly donation along with it. But either way, I think having a soft ask at a happy hour is a nice alternative to doing, a big fundraising campaign as well. So, or not even alternative, a nice addition, I would say. So, okay, so that's kind of the context, and we assessed our digital fundraising needs. Now let's talk a little bit about the 10 best practices for digital fundraising during the coronavirus. So, unfortunately, your fundraising plan for the year is probably a little obsolete right now. With a lot of the events that you are planning or just in-person activities, it's a really important time to invest in rewriting your fundraising plan for the year. So if you had one written out already, I would absolutely go ahead and revisit it. If you hadn't had one written out, I would really start to plan everything out now, just so that you have a roadmap for the rest of the year. And I would keep this very flexible. So plans and timelines might change. You might be able to do that event in the fall. That'd be great. But I would still have the digital plan be first, and then have that, event plan be great if it happens, So plan A is digital fundraising. So when you're building out your fundraising plan, I would do it for the next 2 quarters, or I guess through the end of the year as well. But I would just list out all of your existing fundraising activities, what your donor retention activities are, and what you will need to expand for that, and the new fundraising initiatives that you're doing online. So here's just an example of how we suggest doing that. So we have a template that helps you map your 2020 digital fundraising goals as well as fundraising activities. So we have this goal worksheet that helps walk you through and gives you a framework for donor acquisition, donor engagement, donor retention activities, and the like, and what kind of obstacles you might want to note. So maybe you need to get a virtual gala up and running, but you don't have a platform yet. That would be a great thing to list as an obstacle. And, you know, really reworking those goals and figuring out how much you need based on your new budget that you're looking at for the year. So I would suggest mapping everything out by quarters. And if you want this template, you can go to this link. We'll send out the link in the email as well. I encourage you to download and start planning your digital fundraising plan for the year, because that's what's really going to lay the groundwork for everything else. All right, so my second best practice is to act quickly. There's historically been a lot of back and forth with the board whenever you're deciding on a product or a platform to do digital fundraising. I would make this your top priority because it's really, really urgent. So you don't want to delay out your decision-making process and end up missing out on donations in the meantime. So I wouldn't wait too long to make your digital fundraising plan adjustments and purchases required. You know, going through all of those obstacles and tackling them as quick as possible is going to be what helps you prepare for making the big transition to digital fundraising. So it's better to be early and overly prepared, and just make sure that you get that buy-in from the board that you need urgently. So that's going to really set you up to be prepared for the year. All right, so number 3, make sure your donation form is optimized for conversion. So 75% of young donors are turned off by an out-of-date website. Donors are 38% more likely to give on responsive websites. Conversion rates increased 50% when form fields are lowered from 4 to 3. And 65+% of all fundraising web traffic is mobile and growing each year. So each of these major trends really show how important it is in this day and age to have a really easy giving experience and having a really streamlined giving experience, especially on mobile. That's where most of your traffic is going to end up coming in on. So you want to make sure that your donation form is ready for the influx of donors that are going to be coming to your website over to an event in this time. So it's never been more important to have a really great donation page. So you want to make sure that your donation page helps drive more donations instead of deterring them. Especially making sure that it's optimized to convert as many donors as possible on your website, because that's really going to be very valuable at this point in time. So I would take a look at your donation page, see how the donation process is. You know, it's likely sometimes you just know that it's there and you don't really take a good look at it too often. I would, you know, make a test donation, see how easy it is for you to give, and kind of put yourself in the mind of your donors that are trying to give on your website, and really see if you need to make a change. It's likely that you might. especially for mobile optimization purposes, because you want to make sure that your donation form is mobile optimized and also supports mobile payments, as that's been a huge trend as of late as well, because mobile payments make it a one-click donation instead of having to take out your credit card. And just having a great donation page makes your donors happy, and when donors are happy, they're more likely to come back again in the future. So CauseVox has worked really hard to make our donation pages conversion optimized, mobile friendly, really easy to give on any device, and including mobile payments. So if you are interested in exploring CauseVox for a donation page that you can embed right on your website, please feel free to reach out, and we'll help you get that set up. We have free options available for that. All right, so best practice number 4. So I think it's really important to make sure that you contextualize your appeal. And what I mean by that is not just shooting out an email, ask, or a campaign and having it kind of seem that business is going on as usual. I think what's really important is to acknowledge that everything's kind of crazy at the moment. Things may not be maybe in flux. And so I think just having that context with every communication, especially when it comes to making an ask, is really important. And then when it comes to your ask itself, I think it's really important to, one, position how your cause is still relevant at this time, whether you're serving vulnerable communities or whatever it is that you're doing. Make sure that you have that positioning in place in the context of what's going on a broader scale at the moment. And another big thing is to answer why now in your ask. So if you are able to tell your donors why you're asking for funds at the moment and really communicate that well, they're going to be way more likely to complete their donation, because it'll be seen as urgent and relevant. So the San Marino Schools Foundation, they unfortunately had a lot of budget cuts come up that put 20 teaching positions on the line. So in an effort to save these teaching positions at their organization, for months they've been planning on launching this campaign to raise funds and save the teaching positions. One of the things that I like the most about their appeal is that they just transitioned it. So they had to run this campaign anyway, but in their appeal, they just acknowledged what's going on, and they talked about how valuable it is to especially keep teachers right now. And they also talked about how just acknowledging that everyone may not be able to give at the moment, but we're asking for support now because we need to keep these teachers, and this is why, you know, these funds are required urgently. So I think just having that bit of context in your appeal, I don't think that you have to overhaul your whole fundraising plan and story. I just think having a little bit of acknowledgement in your appeal goes a long way, and makes it all the more relevant to your donor. All right, so number 5, be specific. So when you are doing any fundraising at right now, I think having really specific fundraising goals set is going to be really helpful both to you and your community. So on your end, having something that's specific and measurable is really important, because you'll be able to measure how your digital fundraising is performing and make adjustments, as well as having something that's specific for your audience so that they know exactly what it is that you need in order to run your program or continue operating or whatever it may be. So my best suggestion for communicating these goals is to just be as honest and specific as possible. when you're talking about just these goals with through your appeal and displaying them on your campaign, I would answer a lot of questions. So make sure that you're answering who is benefiting from this campaign, who is going to be receiving, who is benefiting from this campaign, and then how many people are benefiting from this campaign, making it really specific to show, where that impact is going to be made, how exactly funds are being used and distributed, and also communicating impact with your donation tier. So in your levels of giving, trying to tie that to impact as much as possible so a donor can make a donation more based on the impact that they want to create rather than just an arbitrary dollar amount. So Skid Row Housing Trust, I think, did this really well with their campaign. You'll see on their campaign, they talk very specifically about how funds are being used. They said, here's the need. We need $20,000 to help fill financial gaps due to unexpected costs from the coronavirus pandemic. Your donations support nearly 2,000 residents and our frontline staff in 26 buildings with needs such as, and then they have their big long list of what exactly funds are being used for. So I think the more that you can tie your goals to impact is going to make your donors more likely to give and become part of creating that impact with you. So 68% of donors agree that knowing how their donation makes an impact is important to their gift. And so I think that's best used, that idea is best used when it's tied onto your ask itself, and even on your donation page. So here's a look at Skid Row Housing Trust and what their donation tiers look like. You can see they have a broad range of tiers, but they also really specifically tie that to exactly what those funds can be used to accomplish. So $75 provides 75 thermometers, or $1,000 gives nearly 100 residents a supplemental food kit. So think through the ways that you can tie your dollar amounts to impact, and I think that will go a long way to helping you convert and activate more donors during this time. All right, so let's talk a little bit about peer-to-peer fundraising. So organizations that use peer-to-peer fundraising tend to raise about twice as much as opposed to crowdfunding or other digital fundraising campaigns. And that's really because peer-to-peer fundraising is fundamentally about relationships. So if you do want to acquire new donors at this time, peer-to-peer is probably the best way to go about it, because your supporters can set up their own page, distribute it online. It's, peer-to-peer is perfect because it's really a digital fundraising first kind of approach. Your supporters can tell their own story on their own page and raise funds on your behalf through their networks. So you're going to get in front of new people that haven't been exposed to your organization before, and it'll help you drive a lot of new donations coming in for your organization. So it's really never been a better time to try peer-to-peer fundraising. Another advantage, like I was saying earlier, is that it is an alternate ask. So for someone who may not be in a position to make a large gift this year or just make any gift this year, it's a great way to ask them to be part and give them an opportunity to be part of creating an impact with you still. And in many ways, peer-to-peer fundraisers are more valuable than even donors because they're leveraging their whole community for your organization. If peer-to-peer fundraising is new, I would just start with your board members. I've seen a lot of organizations that their first time with peer-to-peer fundraising, they just keep it simple. They do board and then maybe staff if the staff is on board to do peer-to-peer fundraising as well. And see how it goes. I think you'll be really pleasantly surprised with the turnout. Even a small group of peer-to-peer fundraisers can really make a big impact in driving a lot of new donations to your organization. To help you best activate your community, I would recommend preparing a toolkit. So this is basically just a compilation of sample emails, sample pre-written social media posts, and maybe like a content calendar, like how often they should be promoting their pages. Because not everyone that signs up to fundraise is necessarily a fundraiser. They might not know how to get the word out there, but giving them the resources they need to promote their pages goes a long way to really helping them get the word out to their communities. A great way to do this, like Summit Assistance Dogs did, is just activating individuals in their community that usually participated in their luncheon, asking them to share their story and share over social, over email. And I think the more personal someone can get when it comes to sharing a story about your organization, the better, because that's really what it's all about is, it's their relationships with their communities. And when you give people the opportunity to share their story, it really connects. So I would consider doing peer-to-peer fundraising. If you don't want to just start with the board members, I would also activate volunteers. Any recurring or returning donors are great to ask for peer-to-peer, as well as potentially asking any larger donors as well to participate. All right, so another thing that I've been seeing as one of the big trends that can help you increase donations at this time is to get a match. So donors give 50% more when a match is in place. So any of your fundraising campaigns, this can be incorporated into. So especially with any existing fundraising plans that you're bringing online, if you can secure a match, that will really help you drive a lot of urgency for the campaign and more donations at the end of the day. So you're probably going to get an increased gift size by about 50% from each donor. And so if you don't have because I know like matching grants, sometimes you have to apply and it takes a long time. If you don't have the opportunity to do a whole application or just the bandwidth to do that, I would start with the people that are already in your network to see if you can get a large matching gift. So asking your board to match donations up to a certain dollar amount, or maybe asking a major donor to get match donations up to a dollar amount. And then also consider for any like larger pledge gifts for the year, you may want to consider repositioning that pledge gift as a match. So I would follow up with that major donor as well and just see if that works for them to reposition their gift. They'll probably likely say yes. And then you have yourself a match to help you drive more urgency and donations for the campaign. So one of the things that you can also do is try engaging a corporate partner. So there are still a lot of businesses that want to give back during these times. It's really important, I think now more than ever, to show that you're supporting your community. So I think now is a great time to follow up with a partner and see if they could participate in a large matching gift. So Skid Row Housing Trust, they were able to get Banner Bank to agree to a $10,000 match that they had to achieve in a week to get the whole match. So in a very short timeline, they were able to raise $20,000 to support their programs. So a week is a really short time, but if you are able to do something like that and drive that urgency to help you get a lot coming in all at once to help support your programs, which is likely what a lot of you need right now, I would do your best to get some kind of match in place to just, yeah, drive that urgency and drive up those donations. All right, digital fundraising best practice number 8, activate partners. So if you are activate a partner for a matching gift, that's great, but there's other ways you can activate partners as well. So I would consider checking in on all of your partners and see if they're willing to participate in peer-to-peer fundraising with you. One of the things that I see a lot is a organization will ask a partner to be a team, and then their staff or their community will sign up for individual pages underneath that team page. So that team page can be branded and have their logo on it, and it's a great way to get them to actively participate in fundraising with you. Or you can have a partner crowdfund for you. So that's what we see North Texas Food Bank doing. So this is part of their programs, especially right now, is that they're activating a ton of partners to crowdfund through their channels for the food bank. And so they're creating these pages super easily, spinning them up by just cloning a previous campaign, replacing the logo, and tweaking the text on the page to reflect how many meals each partner wants to provide with their crowdfunding campaign. So having something that's co-branded and giving them the tools to be able to easily crowdfund for you can really go a long way to helping you increase your digital fundraising, especially when it comes to partners. Or if you can't get them to do any of that, if you can't get them to match, if you don't want to ask them to do peer-to-peer, if they're not going to crowdfund for you, I would just make the simple ask for them to promote your fundraising campaign through their channels. That's a really simple way to do it, but I would at the very least compile a partner toolkit as well with a sample email or two and some sample social media posts that you want them to post and get the word out about your organization. All right, so best practice number 9, coming down to the end here. So monthly giving. So we talked a little bit about how donor retention is essential right now, and peer-to-peer fundraising is part of a great retention strategy. So recurring donors give 42% more annually than one-time donors, and recurring donors have a 90% retention rate as opposed to 46% for one-time donors. So you're basically doubling the you're doubling your retention rate with recurring donors. So I would, if I were you, try and activate especially active donors in the past year to ask them to make a recurring gift. This is also a trend. So recurring giving grew 17% last year. So I think it's a really good time to kind of ride that trend. And it really does show that your community is interested in partnering with you for the long term. So for your organization, having recurring giving in place helps you really sustainably fundraise. And so I think that's what a lot of this is all about, is making sure that you have donations that you know are coming in this whole year. So that's the huge advantage for recurring. So I would at the very least make sure that you have recurring giving in place on your donation form. Make it super easy for people to choose it. Maybe you want to default recurring giving. So if you have one-time donations first when people get to your donation page right now, maybe try switching it to recurring giving and seeing what the response is. I would also consider running a recurring giving campaign so that you can engage a lot of existing donors to give monthly. So this is just an example of one of our donation pages with monthly giving that's defaulted. So when I go to Loudon Therapeutic Writings page and click make a donation, monthly giving appears first. And then I kind of have that framework in mind. And also CauseVox has just introduced a enhanced recurring giving feature so that you can have separate one-time and recurring giving tiers. So if you're interested in learning more about that, we have an upcoming webinar on that on Tuesday. So I'll go into all the specifics. But here's a look at a recurring giving campaign. So Mortgage Professionals Providing Hope, what they did is they created a campaign that had recurring giving defaulted and sent this out to those donors that were more poised to give a recurring gift. So they followed up with people who have donated more than twice in the last year. Those are great people to target when it comes to asking for another donation. Also just following up with people that give once a year. Give it, like asking them to bring that up to once a month could be a great way to increase their gift size over the course of the year. So it's really easy to get a recurring campaign up and running and just do that targeted outreach to the people who have already been loyal supporters of you and just asking them to make the next step. And not only do they get to really feel like they're partnering with you for the long term, it helps you know exactly what you can expect coming in every month and really retain donors for the long term. All right, so number 10, ramp up your digital fundraising tools. So right now, a lot of you are probably in the position where you have some digital fundraising tools in place, but they might be a little disjointed, a little disconnected. But when it comes to a digital fundraising tool, that really can make or break your how successful your digital fundraising is, especially when it comes to converting donors. So you want to make sure that your digital fundraising is top notch. It's never been more important to have tools that help you instead of kind of hold you back. So the first thing that you want to make sure that when you are selecting a digital fundraising tool is that it helps you get your digital fundraising up and running as quick as possible. And, you know, making sure that you're comfortable with the tool and it's easy to use so that you're not spinning your wheels trying to learn a complicated tool when really your focus needs to be on getting your digital fundraising up and running. And, you know, like, you know, the making sure that your digital fundraising tool takes the stress out of your fundraising so it's not too complicated for your team to learn. Another thing is that you don't want all of your digital fundraising too disjointed. As much as possible, you want to try and keep all your digital fundraising initiatives under one roof so that you're not bouncing back between tools and applications and trying to reconcile everything after the fact, but rather have everything streamlined with reporting and help you save time on admin tasks so that you can focus your energy where needed most. And you want to make sure that your digital fundraising tool is actually helping you increase donations on your website and through all of your digital fundraising efforts. So making sure that your donation forms have no excess fat. You want to make sure that it's really super simple to give on any device, no clunk. Make sure that your donors are able to give on any device without running into issues. And also make sure that your digital fundraising tool provides you the support you need to stand up your digital fundraising. So you'll probably have a lot of questions. You'll probably like to get some onboarding to help you get everything implemented, whether it's embedding the new form on your site or just even setting up that virtual gala, for example. You want to make sure that the platform you choose is going to support you in making all of that happen. So proud to say CauseVox does do all of those things. So if you are interested in getting your digital fundraising up and running for free. We have our basic plan. There's no monthly fees. There's no transaction fees. And I would really encourage you to take a look at that plan to help you get your donation page updated, your peer-to-peer up and running, and any virtual events that you're transitioning during this time. You can run all of that on CauseVox with less effort. So we try and make it super easy for you to get up and running very quickly with all your fundraising needs, your digital fundraising needs. So I would check out causevox.com and take a look at everything we have to offer. And I'd be happy to, if anyone's interested in chatting further about how that would look for your organization, please let me know, and I will definitely reach out and schedule a time to chat with you about your digital fundraising. All right, so we have about 5 minutes to go through some questions. I think I got some questions already to work through, but feel free to send all your questions in now, and I'll get to as many as I possibly can. So one of the questions that was asked from Jackie was, how do people create a personal fundraising page? So CauseVox enables you to activate your community to create their page. So for example, on this recurring giving campaign, they tailored their button to say become a humble hero. That's what they're calling their personal fundraisers. So that if you set a page up with CauseVox, that button is going to be automatically on any campaign that you set peer-to-peer fundraising up on. So we make it really easy. Our pages are mobile optimized so that fundraisers can set up their page on any device. We've also made it so that you can pre-fill in a lot of the setup process for them, so they don't really have to think very much when they're setting up their page. So we find that on average, fundraisers can set up a personal fundraising page in 60 seconds or less with the optimized fundraiser sign-up forms. I saw a couple questions come in about this presentation and getting a copy. I'll go ahead and send out the PDF of all of the slides, so you'll have all of this to come back to. And as far as like getting more resources when it comes to virtual fundraising ideas, our blog has a ton of ideas. We just put up a new post about 10 types of virtual fundraising we're seeing on CauseVox, and we also have 14 virtual event ideas. So I would encourage you to take a look at our blog for even more virtual event ideas. And if you're interested in chatting through that virtual event and sort of exploring what that would look like on CauseVox, I'm happy to sort of sit down and sort of chat through your idea and work through it as well and what that would look like. And so I have a question from Diane. If we already have a CRM, can we use CauseVox for digital fundraising? And so, yeah, the answer is yes. We actually work best, I think. Well, so we have a fundraising CRM in CauseVox to help you streamline reporting, but we also really pride ourselves in playing well with others. We integrate with most CRMs through a tool called Zapier, so that you can basically set it up so any new donations that come in, all of that data is automatically sent to your CRM. Some of those include Salesforce, Kindful, Little Green Light, Bloomerang now, and a whole bunch of others. So, and Janet asked, what is a CRM? And it's Customer Relationship Management System, also known as, a donor database, or just a tool to keep track of your donation data. All right. I think that's about all the time that I have, but I will definitely shoot out this email to everyone on Monday. So you'll get all the slides and the recording and be able to review this with your team later. And I'll also send along some resources that have been brought up today as well, like that fundraising plan template. That could be a great opportunity for you to map out your digital fundraising plan as well. So thank you, everyone. I'm getting such kind comments. I appreciate you all joining today, and have a great weekend, everyone.